Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final day of the American Cup 2022 women's section. Okay, in the second game, this is the second game. Irina Krush drew with Alice Lee, and with her win in game one, she wins the inaugural American Cup women's division. All right. It was a draw, but let's take a look at some strategic ideas behind this game. Alice was white. She played d4. Okay, Irina went for d5, c4, c6, knight into c3, knight f6. Knight f3 was played by Alice. Takes on c4, a4, e6, e3. All right, a smart choice by Irina here with c5. After takes. Now we have what we call the IQP, or the isolated queen pawn. And naturally, when white has this pawn on d4 isolated, normally this pawn should be on a2, but with the pawn on a4, black has this idea of playing that knight on c6, knight b4. Now, how do we play when we have this isolated queen pawn? All right. If we have the IQP, we should play dynamic chess, okay? Or else black will just exchange the minor pieces, this bishops and knight, and put pressure on that pawn with the major pieces. Okay, in the game, black played knight c6 castles, bishop e7, rook e1. This is a wrong way to go. If we have this position on the board, for example, now, especially with this pawn and a4, this is an important moment. Yeah? Again, with an IQP, you need to play dynamically. You better start with queen e2. It's a much better move than rook e1. Now, let's take a look at capture. If knight captures on d4, there's knight takes d4, queen takes d4. We have knight d5 hitting the c7 square. If the queen moves back on d8 to protect that square, we can play bishop f4. If black castles, we have knight c7 hitting the rook on a8. Rook b8, we have rook a d1. And if bishop to d7, we have knight takes e6. Let's say pawn takes, bishop takes e6. If king moves to h8, we can take that bishop and we can take a rook. And white should win. Right. And speaking of dynamic play, the young Alice should play like this, right? When you're young, you're energetic, you go for aggressive chess. Yeah. Queen e2. Now, if black castles, then you just go rook d1. This is a much better version of the game. And if black tries to protect the d5 square, only then you go bishop g5. If h6, you take that knight, take the knight, and then this knight jumps to e4. If black wants to keep the bishop with bishop e7, then knight e5. The importance of rook d1, protecting the d4 pawn. Yes. Let's just say b6 and try to go for bishop b7. Okay, we can go back knight c3, bishop into b7, a5. Yes. Okay, opponent cannot go back to knight d5 because we have a6. If you go knight takes c3, just takes on c3, for example, bishop to d5, then bishop b5, threatening c4, right? And where's this bishop going? Okay, maybe he can go rook c8, c4, and bishop a8, right? But we can push d5, yes. The isolated pawn becomes very dangerous, becomes a central pass pawn. And another thing here, if after queen e2, opponent castles, for example, or shall we say knight d5 to To stop the central push with d5, we have bishop to b3, knight cb4, knight e5. This is very important, knight e5. So the rook should be on d1 with that x-ray on the queen. Yeah. Bishop on d7, and you can go queen g4, queen g3, pressure on the king, king h8, and now this typical sacrifice on d5. Black has a pawn and two knights, yes, but white also has enough. You have bishop, knight, and rook. Takes, and takes. You cannot take this knight on d5 because it's going to pin that bishop on d7 and you lose a piece. And if you go bishop e6 here, bishop h6, as Ding Liren played against Peter Svidler. Amazing move by Ding, because if white captures, knight takes on f6, hitting the queen. And if, let's say, queen goes to a5, queen goes to f4, threatening queen h6, and how do you stop that? If you put your king to g7, there's knight h5. It's powerful knights. In the game, Peter went for knight h5, in queen f3 played, bishop g5, and now knight f4. Svidler losing a piece after bishop takes g5, queen takes h5. There's h4, king g8, rook to e1, hitting the queen, maintaining the queen, but g4. Black resigned here because if, let's say, you take the pawn on g4, this takes, the bishop escapes on e7. So that's how you play with an isolated queen pawn. So it's much better to play queen e2 here than rook e1, and the rook on d1. All right. But in the game, rook e1 was played by Alice. Black simply castles, bishop g5, h6, and this is not venomous. Bishop h4, b6, okay. Rook to c1, bishop b7. Normal developing moves here for white will not help, especially in a situation where white needs to win. Bishop f1, rook c8. This is just very passive on f1. Bishop g3, knight into b4. Now black has control of the d5 square. This is going to be a target. Knight of d5. Okay, bishop g5 hitting the rook. Has to move to d1, queen to e7. Bishop f4, takes on g3. Bishop a8. Rook fd8, a6. This is actually better for black. But Irina didn't go for the kill because for her, a draw is enough to win the championship. Yeah. Rook d1, rook c8, bishop into b7. White has no better plans and no targets. You cannot shift your bishop to d3 and b1. There's a knight in b4. Okay, bishop h5, just g6, and bishop f3, g7, h5. Here a5 was played, but actually here, if I'm playing black here with this pawn on h5, you can push h4, right? It's not possible for white to capture h4 because now you have queen takes h4 and rook h8. So pushing the pawn on g4 is forced. Okay, then you can push a5 here. But even in the game, okay, with rook c1, black can still continue with h4. Okay, but she didn't want to force the issue, so she just went for takes exchange. No need to complicate things. They have a complete control because white has to worry about that IQP exchange. knight d5. The final exchange, king and pawn endgame. The king has no open line to go. The king cannot go inside. Same as the black king. King f6, king e2. And it's a repetition in the end. So it was a draw, and with a draw, Irina with black wins the championship. So this is a lesson on the isolated queen pawn. So when you have that isolated queen pawn on d4, a much better move here for white was queen e2. All right, and then the rook on d1. Okay, because again, if the knight captures, let's say the knight captures that pawn on d4, we have knight takes, we have knight b5, we have bishop f4, the pieces are free flowing. Yeah, we have knight c7, we have a centralized rook, we have the sacrifice on e6, which is also typical in the IQP. Takes, and black wins material, wins e. All right, so that's about it. Congratulations to Irina for winning the Inaugural American Cup 2022. But then again, also kudos to Alice Lee, the youngest participant at 12 years of age, going toe-to-toe with the top players from the women's field. Wow, imagine a young 12-year-old in the finals. That's a feat in itself. And we will continue to see more of these rare feats from this young girl. All right, guys, thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting our channel, Charles Smash Chess and Charles Smash Entertainment on Facebook and YouTube. This is Coach Oliver. Stay safe, everyone.